Back in the days of the PC-98, one team that made some of the better eroge games was probably Seizeware. They made a lot of eroge from back in the day, and this team's games are going to be a massive part of this video series. However, they weren't technically a company. Seizeware was just a brand made by a company called Emiyasoft that was used for some of their adult games from 1993 to what I think up to 2006. Which kind of explains why this company's track record just stopped cold in so many different areas. But Emiyasoft just finally went bankrupt in 2017. Another example is Gaia, a brand used by TGL's adult games. Gaia made stuff like Briganti, that weird beat-em-up RPG, Harlem Blade, that weird PC-98 RPG with the extremely bad translation. Anyways, Seizware's first game was released in November 1993, and the brand was used up to 2007. What's cool is, the company actually gave their games English releases starting around 1996, when Emiyasoft did finally decide to port their games to Windows. Yes, you can play these games in English officially. However, I don't think the translations are good sometimes, and we will get to that later. Their first title was a game called Fatal Relations, also known as Forbidden Blood Family in Japan. The cover art for this game is actually pretty cool in my opinion. Wait, this game sold for 8,800 yen back in the day? Man, I hope it was worth the purchase. On this game's team was a man known as Hiroyuki Kano. For this game, he was just a programmer, but he's one of the important guys I'll be talking about that absolutely changed the visual novel scene for good. The story behind this game is that he has to make a game at Emiyasoft, and management gave him 3 months to do it or else he would be fired. He was self-taught, but he managed to do it. Anyways, I was gonna play the DS version of this game that is actually in English for some reason, and only in English as far as I know, but I decided not to at the last minute and play the version that you can play in your web browser. In this game, you're stuck in the mansion, and all you do is... That's a censor bar, by the way. Clap. That's it, but it does have a story. You see, your parents die in a car accident, and this millionaire widow wants to adopt you. Doesn't seem like a bad idea. And you get adopted and you immediately move into her mansion. All of this game takes place inside the mansion. You don't leave at all throughout the game. You do in the ending segment of the game, but that's just a cutscene. So get used to the big mansion. You get to navigate through some menus, but you seem to have a few choices at some points, but they're all fake. It's just one long 3-hour trek to the end, and you get to meet the entire cast almost immediately. The story is told from our protagonist's perspective, and his name is Ken, by the way, and I don't think you see his face at all in the game, which is a common thing that a lot of eroge do. There's Mrs. Hayami, the head of the family and her late husband's corporation, Rika, the oldest daughter who's cold and businesslike, Shizune, a delicate and somewhat slicky person, Yuko, the middle daughter, who is basically just the average bookworm, complete with glasses. Aya, the total tomboy who loves sports and such. Yuki, the youngest daughter, who is always wanting to get her way. As you can see, she is really young, but we'll get back to her in a bit. Last but not least, you have Sayori, the maid. She always looks unhappy, and Ken always worries for her. So the first day is just you meeting everyone, and that's basically it. Nothing really too special. Miyuki wants to play with you. Okay, what do you want to do? Throw the old football? Play Smash Brothers? Well, Ken is too busy, so he'll do it tomorrow. So after meeting with everyone, you get to go to sleep and then wake up to quite a sight. The maid was in your bedroom. It turns out that this is her job and she does it first thing in the morning to everyone. So you spend the entire day going around the house and hanging out with everyone. At one point you have to take a little quiz for Yuko because she likes smart men and wants you to pass her test before you can do anything with her. Simple. The questions are really stupid though. What is the area of a triangle? I forgot 8th grade math. What of the following is the Supreme Court under? Doesn't this take place in Japan and not the United States? An airtight box weighs 10 grams. A bird inside weighs 5 grams. If a bird flies around inside, what is the total weight of the box? What the fuck is this supposed to mean? Wait, I just did physics. It's 55 grams. Why was the black hitman in Pulp Friction not hit when shot at a very close range? I never watched this movie until after writing the script, so sorry. AD is an abbreviation of what language? English? And after you answer all of her dumb questions, you get to do some fun stuff with her. Now, when I said you do a thing with everyone in the house, I mean everyone. So let's go back to the English title. We're seeing a lot of relations, so that should check. But there isn't any fatality anywhere so far. So after like a month in the game, some insane stuff happens. Miyuki wants to be different from all the other girls. Okay, what do you want to do? Stop doing weird stuff and play some tennis? A much more fun thing to do? No! Burn the house down! And then Shizune comes in and Miyuki says that she didn't want to do it, which is a lie. Yeah, Miyuki is just a bitch. She lies about that, pushes someone down the stairs, hurts Aya while she's exercising. Oh yeah, I forgot about one of the common Emiyasoft staples, blood and gore. Heck, they even made a horror-themed game 5 years later. Then Mrs. Hayami pulls a shotgun on you, and then Miyuki burns the entire house down and everyone dies except you and Sayori, and then that's how the game ends. Yeah, this game is just pretty bizarre, and I can't talk a lot about the adult content in much detail because I actually want this video to be online. The story is of course not really the focus of the game, and the amount of adult scenes is just a lot. Would I recommend this game? Well, no, it's far from good. It just feels like a really bad and tasteless adult movie in the form of a video game, and that's it. Though when you compare this plot to actual plots in those types of films, it's much better than them, for the most part. The art for this game is pretty good, but it got better in other Seizeware games coming a few years later. The music is decent, of course, but of course it got better later on. There are some weird parts, like the whole thing with Miyuki, and there's some pretty violent and disgusting stuff somewhere in the game that you have to see since the game is linear. It's just kind of average, and that's it. Overall, I would give this game a 4 out of 10. So around 3 months after Fatal Relations' first release, Seizeware made another eroge. Instead of our protagonist being stuck in his own home, one of my favorite places, this game's protagonist is stuck in a school, one of the last places I would want to be at the end of the day. It's called Love Potion, or Agnamic School, as it's called in Japan. I don't know how to pronounce that. It first released on February 25th, 1994 on the PC-98 and got a few ports, a localization, and was bundled with the remake of a later Seizeware title, which I will get into later. Basically, this is just the same as Fatal Relations, but with a couple new twists. The menu-based navigation is still present, and adult content is, of course, still around. Again, our new favorite Japanese man, Hiroki Kano, worked on this game. After successfully finishing Fatal Relations in 3 months, he got to work on his new project, which is Love Potion. At this time, instead of being just a programmer, he also got to work on the scenario and design the game. Quite a step up. This game takes place at Amemiya Private School, a well-known and obviously fictional girls-only school with a huge campus situated on the outskirts of a city. The students who enroll are at the top of the social ladder. Our protagonist is the new biology teacher. Now, it's a girls-only school, doesn't accept males, but Yuichi Sakuma, the game's protagonist, is male. I mean, okay, sure. Some bizarre stuff happens when he's looking around, like a girl running away when she sees him. Yuichi then meets the principal of the school, Toshiko Amamiya. Now, a male teacher at a girls-only school is a pretty okay plot compared to something like an adult movie, but this game has a bit of a twist. Yuichi pretends to be a dorky teacher, but he has a reason to be at the school. He's an agent of the Japanese educational system to investigate private schools. Private schools are considered to be backwards and just inefficient, and the crime communities are often hidden and is often difficult for the police to get involved. At Amamiya, many students disappeared and the police were unable to get information on them. Another agent from Jess, Megumi Sasaki, was sent here, but people were unable to contact her. According to Toshiko, she was resigning, but agents never resign. So the Jess sent in Yuichi to investigate the school and find Megumi. Now, I have zero idea what the Jess thought when assigning Yuichi to this because, you know, male teacher working at a girls-only school? Kinda odd. So that's the basic plot. How's everything else in the game? Well, the music is pretty good, but not really on the original PC-98 version. In my opinion, the best version of the soundtrack is the version on the PC re-release. It just sounds kind of better. Of course, the menu navigation is the same, and I don't think it changes at all in any of these Seizeware games I'm going to be reviewing. So let's talk about the game's cast. It's a bit bigger than Fatal Relations, 10 characters instead of like 8. So you got Yuichi, the protagonist, Toshiko, the principal of the school, Megumi, Yuichi's predecessor who suddenly disappeared, Hiromi, a cute and energetic girl who enjoys talking to Yuichi, Sayuri, the model student who's the daughter of Toshiko. She's the student body president and is at the top of her class. Yumiko seems to have a great body, but she has a boyish personality and displays hostility to Yuichi. Yoko doesn't seem to have a personality of her own. She's basically just Sayuri's lackey who goes to great lengths to please her. Noriko is a first-year student who isn't in Yuichi's class, but she's always active in the gym after school hours, but she doesn't seem to be belonging to any clubs. Talking to her can be annoying because she often acts silly and immature. Shizuka is the school nurse, and like any other school nurse from any adult media, she's one heck of a cutie. And last but not least, there's Kyoko Himura. She seems to be a loner and is never around any other girls. So yeah, this game has more variety than Fatal Relations. The graphics look decent, and I think they're ripped straight from the original PC-98 version, but I didn't bother checking. We also got voice acting in this game, which is a neat addition. There isn't voice acting for the protagonist, which is just common yet a little annoying. It isn't in English and I can't understand Japanese, so maybe it's terrible. The protagonist in this game is more degenerate this time around. Great job, Yuichi, you're disgusting on the job when you probably shouldn't be. Whatever, it's Japan. Anyways, on to the reason why people played this game. Now, since this is a school with 0 boys in it, do you think anyone in the school would be straight? Heck no, not everything is as innocent as it seems. Also, when Yuichi meets some of the students in this game, a few of them are just really bitchy and mean to him. It really shows that the protagonist isn't really welcome here at the school. But god damn, some of these girls just need to know a few manners. The tomboy calls Yuichi a pervert, and if she gets near him, she'll get pregnant. I mean, that's half true. As the game continues, the amount of weird stuff that happens just ranks up repeatedly. Play the game if you want to see some insane stuff, because Love Potion has a ton of it. Of course, the story continues as the game progresses, and it gets sort of interesting. Most of the game is just navigating through menus a ton, and the adult content really doesn't start happening until like around halfway through the game. Now, why is Yuichi acting disgusting when he should obviously be investigating something else? And why is everyone so bitchy and acting like dirty old pricks? Well, it's because of drugs. The school has these unnamed pills that they give out to everyone, including you on the second day. It's just a basic excuse to the high amount of ecstasy and bliss brewing in the school. But as one of the earliest adult games with a story that's more than just there, and you know, I'm just gonna spoil the game. It just goes down the same way as Fatal Relations, but the death counter is much lower. People get shot and die, the mystery is solved, and everyone is happy. Man, does anyone want a sequel to this? Anyways, is this game worth your time? In my opinion, no, not really. There's a ton of shocking content that begins around the first day of the 3, and it just keeps getting more insane. The music is kinda average and doesn't really compare to later Seizure games. It's better than Fatal Relations, but it's no masterpiece. The game is quite short too, around 4 hours long. Now I must say, this game can get quite boring despite the short length. I played it in one sitting and it was just not fun at all. There was so much menu navigating and I just said fucking and pulled up a guide on GameFAQs. Also, this game is linear just like Fatal Relations. You do get choices, but yet again, all of them are fake. Again, gameplay is just reading and clicking away. I can really only recommend the game if you want to see a ton of shocking content thrown at you really fast. Like some old Love Potion review said, you're gonna need a love potion to love this game. Now, after Love Potion, Seizure made 2 more games in 1994, Desire in July and Zenin in December, both with Hiroyuki Kano on the staff. However, this time he got a major step up in his development roles. Desire and Zenin were his directorial debuts. He still did the scenarios, and they were pretty well done. As far as I know, Love Potion scenario was not well received, so Desire was made with the intention of making a much better scenario. Desire was a big hit. The Sega Saturn version sold around 86,000 copies and became the 75th best-selling game for the system in Japan. Desire was the first game of Conoco's to include the multi-site system. This system allows the player to see the story of the game play out from the perspectives of multiple people. Oh yes, and of course, the music. This time, a man named Ryu Umimoto comes into play. Umimoto was a freelance composer and landed a job at Himiyasoft. His first job was to compose music for Desire under extremely tight deadlines. He would have 2 months to finish the music even while working on multiple projects, which he was. Oh yeah, did I mention that Seizure wasn't very kind to people who were actually trying to make classic experiences instead of just new Kikes? Anyways, Umimoto made both the music for Desire and Zenin, and they were pretty good. They pushed the limits of the YM2203 to its absolute limits. Apparently he actually had to break his sound hardware to get his desired audio. But Desire wasn't really much of a masterpiece. The game is monitor-breakingly difficult and absolutely requires a guide. Sadly, I couldn't find one and decided to not play this game for the video. Also, the company's management started to oppose Kano in places. For example, Desire's second scenario, Makoto's scenario, was changed drastically by the company to meet their sex quota. I can't make that up. They literally changed half the game to just be a bad new Kige. Due to this, the first scenario has around 90% of the plot of the entire game, and the other is just a mess. Zenin was one game that the company absolutely hated. The game has 3 routes and only one of them has adult elements. I don't know that much more about Zenin because it's not in English, but after that game was completed, Seizure decided to pull the plug on all these epic story-based adult games and put Conco on a much more traditional eroge called Amy's Fantasies in 1995. Which followed the company's guidelines much more than the last 2 games. Kano was not pleased by being put on a game with this many tags on VNDB and went freelance. Now, I decided to not play the last 2 games because of lack of guides and readability. I did play a bit of Desire, but then I got lost and I thought it was okay. Nothing too fancy compared to the later games.